Welcome to the Buick Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon Marion, and on this podcast, we dive deep into the outdoors. We discuss hunting and fishing techniques, give you tips and tricks, tell stories, and everything in between to help you enjoy the outdoors. Do you want to become part of the Buick Outdoors team, represent one of the best Northern BC YouTube channels, and help us grow? If you do, then check out our brand new online store. We have a bunch of new merch set up and ready to sell. We have everything from hats, shirts, sweaters, cups, mugs, backpacks, pillows, and the list goes on. It's also made for men, women, children, toddlers, and we even have something for your pets. We have several designs to choose from and a bunch of different colors and sizes. Head over to shop.spreadshirt.ca/Buick Outdoors to check it out. That's shop.spreadshirt.ca/Buick Outdoors and join the team today. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Buick Outdoors podcast. If you're new around here, I'm your host, Sheldon Marion, and I really want to start this off with that new viral trend that's going around right now. If you get lost, they're saying that a good practice to do is to change your voicemail. Really, guys, don't do that. That is just stupid doing that, really, to be honest with you. If you are out in the woods and you get lost and you have phone service, you're not doing any favors by changing your voicemail. It's much better if you just call 911 directly. I kind of laugh at it because I really don't think something like that should have to be said. But for the amount of stuff that I've seen kind of circulating right now, it's phenomenal how much bad ideas are getting circulated around, and just terrible advice, really. If you're out in the woods and you're lost, if you have phone service, man, you are in luck. They're gonna find you right away, especially if you have enough service to get a phone call out. Most likely you'll be able to go onto like Google Maps, hit find my location, and give those guys like a pinpoint exact latitude and longitude. Like it's you're not exactly lost these days if you have cell phone service. But yeah, guys, like, please don't try to change your voicemail, especially if it's something like on a long weekend or something like that, and you head out Friday after work. Nobody's gonna really start looking for you until like Tuesday or Wednesday when you haven't showed up to work for a few days. By then, there's a good chance you could be kind of half dead or whatever. So, yeah, that voicemail thing, don't do that. Please don't do that. Some good advice for you is to tell a friend or family member or even your boss, whoever, roughly where you're going, when you'll be back, kind of a thing. Give it, make sure to let them know, like, don't hit the panic button if you say you're going to be back at 5 and at 6:30, wait till at least the next morning, kind of a thing. Also too, if you do happen to get lost, just stay put, stay where you are. Try to be seen, have a signal ready to go, whether it is you start a fire and you have a bunch of spruce boughs ready for you. You have a bright jacket or something like that. If you hear a helicopter, you can wave it around. Buy survival equipment, whether it's just a simple survival kit off Amazon. It's a lot better than having absolutely nothing. Also, just kind of use common sense. Don't freak out. Don't panic. The amount of stuff that's kind of thrown at a person, if you do become lost, it is phenomenal. I've been a part of a search and rescue operation once, and if you want to get found, you're gonna get found. It's not, a handful of people just kind of walking around in the woods. There's RCMP with the K9 unit, there's helicopters, there's infrared, there's guys with drones, there's foot patrols, There's side-by-side and ATV patrols. There's patrols with vehicles. You get everything, including the kitchen sink, thrown at you because they do want to find you, So if you are ever in that kind of a situation, just relax, sit back, build yourself a nice little campfire, and basically just see it as a weird vacation for a day or two and just kind of wait for search and rescue to find you. If you panic, if you run, if you try to find your own way out and you just keep getting further and further in the bush, you're really not helping anybody out at all. Especially a lot of times during a search and rescue operation, they'll find where a person was, and you can see that they had a fire, they spent the night there or whatever, and then they continue to walk and they're going in the wrong direction. So it's definitely easier on yourself and on the search and rescuers if you just kind of stay put, stay where you are, don't freak out. And then also the big thing is just let people know where you are. If you're gonna be going to whatever park, actually go there. Don't change your mind last minute. If you do, whoever it is that you talk to before leaving, get a hold of them. Make sure you tell them that, hey, you know what, there was a change of plans, and now instead of going here, you're going to be going to this other spot, just so there's no confusion. Especially if something does happen and you are reported missing, instead of them searching where you are, they'll be searching where you said you're going to be, and it's going to be two complete opposite directions. So yeah, always have a plan. Bring survival gear with you. Make sure you have something to signal with. Bring fire starters, maybe a little bit of extra water, a little bit of food. You don't have to go extraordinary. Like, you don't need to bring 50 pounds of gear. Small little survival kit that you can buy that fits into your pocket. Actually, I got one of these little burner kits. So I got liquid gas here. It's just butane, propane fuel. I always have my little blue enamel cup. And then, unfortunately, if you're just listening to this and you're not watching this, what I got, it's a little orange case. It's about, what is that, 3 inches tall, 1.5 wide by another inch. And inside this thing, if you open her up and pull her out, it's like a little pocket stove. This one here, got it from Amazon, from E-Tech City. There's these little arms that fold out of it. You hook her up to your little butane, propane gas canister. And on this one too, you don't need matches or a lighter to start it. There's a little red button here on the side that you can push. And basically you just turn on the handle and you have fire. And that thing will crank the heat out. These little things, buy that for $20 off Amazon. The gas, you buy that from Walmart, Canadian Tire, Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, wherever it is that you have camping supplies, really. And like this thing, for me, I haven't had to use it in like a survival type situation, but I'll be out walking around or whatever and want to have a cup of tea. Man, you can boil a cup of water with this thing in just a couple of minutes. And it doesn't go through all that much gas, and also it's small enough where if you had to, you really could pack it in your pocket, but yeah, it might kind of jab your leg a little bit. But this little thing, I just take it, put it in my cup, throw it in my bag with me, and put in a couple tea bags or whatever, a couple things of sugar, kind of a deal. And yeah, for me, that's just to enjoy a cup of tea while I'm out in the bush. But yeah, if you were in an actual, situation there, that thing, yeah, that'd be a lifesaver, that one. Same thing with like having a multi-tool. I always have a Leatherman on me, or just a knife in general. It can help you out. You're not going on some big 7-day extravagant backpacking trip. If you're going on a day hike, you really don't need all that much. Uh, some people, some people really like those kind of in reach and satellite messaging devices and stuff. For me, I personally don't really like them. Uh, and it's not necessarily so you can get help. For me, it's the mentality that people get once they have that. It almost seems like if you're out in the bush and you're on your own, you kind of know that you are, so you do things a lot different. Uh, you make sure you cut away from yourself. You watch where you're putting your feet. You're not running around like an idiot in the bush. You're watching out for those little branches and stuff that you don't get one in the eye. Uh, and then it seems like when you have one of those in reach or something that you can get help right away, people's comfort level gets weird. It's like they're camping next to a hospital or something. It's almost like they don't have to pay as much attention, and they don't have to. They kind of throw caution to the wind a little bit because they, in their mind, if they get hurt, they have a way to get help, and I don't like that. I would much rather uh, just be cautious, really. For me, it's just kind of second nature because I've grown up doing this kind of stuff. Uh, so for me, even at the house, I'm always making sure I'm cutting away from me. I watch where I step. I don't do anything stupid, really. I don't know how else you describe it. If you guys listen to me a lot, yeah, you'll know that I don't really beat around the bush. I call a spade kind of thing. But yeah, those, I just don't like them. People, they get a little too reckless and a little too comfortable doing something stupid when they know that they could potentially get hurt real bad, but because they have this thing in their pocket, they just have this kind of, I don't know. They kind of justify uh, doing making bad decisions when they're out in the woods, kind of a thing, and it's, to me, it's not the right way to go. But if you have them, they are good to have. Uh, just know that it's not a guaranteed thing that's gonna work. So please, like, you still have to be cautious of what you're doing, and yeah, don't make well, try not to make any stupid mistakes. Mistakes do happen, and also, I don't know what it's like around other places, but in BC, all search and rescue efforts are 100% paid for. So if you need help, call for help, get help. It's not going to cost you a penny. Even though I can tell you there is a ton of money that goes into that stuff. When they bring in, like, one of the helicopters, the one they used out here was a B2 helicopter. They're about $1,600 to $2,000 per hour. It's half-hour flight out here, half-hour flight home. And then while they're here, it's like about 4 hours of flying that they can do. You don't pay for a cent of that. It is all paid for by the government, by the province, whoever pays for it. Me and you, we don't pay for it. So if you need help, make sure you call for help. But yeah, that's my rant about that. And just, be careful out there. I had somebody ask me what I thought about the fur prices and kind of what my predictions are for that. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't paid attention to fur prices for a couple of years. Basically, a few years ago, things started to go downhill pretty quick. All the anti-fur movements and stuff, they've really been coming in and pushing the market out. A lot of the Canadian companies like Canada Goose, they're no longer using coyote fur for the trim. They're going to be using fake stuff, which is a terrible idea. There's a lot of times where, if you have real fur on something, you're really helping out the predator problems that we have. And then also, real fur will actually biodegrade. You take that jacket, throw it in the ditch, the fur will be gone within, a couple years, whatever, and the jacket will still be there. This fake fur stuff, it's made out of plastic. Uh, and yeah, plastic doesn't exactly biodegrade all that much. And the weird thing is too is a lot of people when they're anti-fur, they kind of seem to be a bit on the anti-oil side of things too, but they still want their fake fur. So then it's kind of a catch-22 for them poor guys. You get rid of the fur, but then you bring up more oil-based products. But oh well, somebody's got to lose, eh? But yeah, with that being said, the anti-fur people, they're really driving the markets down. Mink farming, it gets a really bad rap, and to be honest with you, in my mind, it should. Basically, you're raising mink up in cages. Once they hit a year or whatever it is, pretty well take them to slaughter, skin them, sell the fur off, and it is a business, and it might be a business that, I don't know, it might need to happen, but for the most part, I think those mink farms and stuff, they should be kind of like top-ups. The main fur market should be wild fur, wild, sustainably caught fur. It's a natural resource. It's not really going anywhere. You're helping the ecosystem out by trapping. And then if there's ever a dip in the market or an increase in the market and you need extra fur, that's when the mink farms should be able to step in and just kind of, top it up a little. But for the most part, I think wild fur should come first. Farm stuff should come second. But unfortunately, it's just kind of the other, it's opposite. Farm mink, it's a lot cheaper to produce. It's easier to produce, and it's more mass produced kind of a thing, one farmer can raise whatever 100,000 mink, where one trapper might catch a dozen. So it brings down the fur prices to the point where the wild fur almost can't compete with it. But that's not exactly my area of expertise. Never really has been. But then also with the fur now, even like whatever 10, 15, 20 years ago, the main driver of fur was overseas markets. So you got like places in like Europe, China, Russia. They're the main fur buyers. And now with COVID here and our international shipments and stuff like that being just in complete chaos, I really don't see that getting any better. I know a couple years ago things got real bad, and I'm not even really too sure why. That was about 6 years ago, where like even the beaver fur, if you sent your beaver to auction, it might sell. I think back then it was something like only 40% of the beaver pelts were actually getting sold, and the ones that were getting sold were only selling for about $8 per pelt. And when you're getting $8 for beaver, man, that is not worth it. You're better off just shooting them and leaving them float in the pond, kind of a thing. Which is sad, because beaver, they annihilate so much woodlands, and they flood roads, and they cause just millions of dollars worth of damages every year. So the beaver, they're almost like coyotes and wolves and stuff, where if you manage them, they are good to have around. But once there's too many of them, then you almost have to kill them just to kill them. Really, you have to have that manageable number. And right now, the predators are exploding, beaver are exploding, and it doesn't do any good for anybody. Even if you are a fur trapper, you can go out. Like the amount of work it takes to actually trap a beaver, skin it, flesh it, and get it ready for the fur auction, it is enormous how much work goes into it. For me, I personally enjoy it, but if you're trying to do it to make money, it's not going to happen. Unless you get a nuisance permit and you're on a nuisance job, then absolutely, that's the absolute best way to trap beavers, because you're paid per tail, not per hide. And so really, you go out where Farmer Joe has 20 beaver that keep flooding his road or whatever, and it's washing the road out. You go out there and you charge him $500 per tail, kind of a thing. There you go. You're making money. It wouldn't be $500. It might be 20 to 50, kind of a thing. But yeah, that's the only way you're really going to be making money off of beaver. The caster is not too bad. I know when we were big into getting beaver, we made way more money off of the beaver caster than we ever did on hides. And that's when we were making like good money on the beaver hides. I think we were averaging kind of $30 to $40 per hide. And when we were doing that, we were taking my uncle's riverboat. We were floating down the piece. We'd fire it up. We'd drive up the beaten. And that's when we had the adjoining trap line. So the beaten river was on our trap line. And we'd just take the afternoon and we'd shoot a bunch of beaver. Probably, 10 to 20 beaver kind of a thing. Bring them home, skin them up, board them, dry them, get them ready for the market. And when you're shooting river beaver like that, it's not top quality pelts, whatsoever. A top quality pelt is one that you get a beaver in a pond and you get them with conibear, and basically there's no bite marks, there's no bullet holes. It's nice prime pelts. With us, what we were doing, the beaver on the river, beaver are extremely territorial. So when you're shooting them on a river, they are completely riddled with little bite marks and holes and pus, and it's gross. The pelts aren't that nice. There's holes kind of almost everywhere, and so we're making pretty good money on bad hides. But then the caster, they hang those up and you dry them. You send them in a little bag, and they pay you per pound kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure we're making almost double what we were doing. And even then, when the pelts were like that, kind of $30-ish, even then Dad was saying, this isn't worth our time for this, $30. And then when it went down to $8, I mean, it definitely not worth your time. And that was with just shooting beaver, just floating down the river. Like, it wasn't quote unquote hard work. Like, that was actually it was actually pretty enjoyable. When you're actually trapping them, man, it is work. You have a big 330 conibear trap. Those things are pretty dangerous on their own too. I know a lot of guys, they like to use trap setters and safety latches and stuff with that. Myself, I've never used a safety with them, because once my hands are off of that trap and away from it, I don't want to go anywhere near that thing. It's one of the only things in the bush that'll scare the shit out of me, is a 330 conibear that's set and ready to go. I don't want to be anywhere near that thing. I've used them lots, but you definitely have to respect them. If one of those went off on your arm, your arm's broke. So then, when you're doing the safety latches, in BC anyways, your trap has to be fully submerged underwater for it to be legal. And when you have the jaws set on a 330, you take a safety catch, and you put it on top of the jaw, you let her go. Then that way, if it sets off, the safety catches those jaws and doesn't completely close. The problem with that though is when you're trapping, especially for beaver, you have to submerge that trap underwater. And where beaver live, it's usually not clean water. You have about 2 inches that you can see. After that, it's just kind of brown, murky, muddy water. You can't see nothing. So you put your trap down in there, you get her all set, you get your guide stick set up, and now you got to reach into that water, find your trap, find that safety, pull the safety off, and again, you can't see what you're doing. So for me, I just held on to the top. That way, if it does go off, whatever, it'll push my fingers out of the way, but it won't actually catch me. And then that way, once my hands are off that trap, I don't gotta touch it again. We're good to go. Trap set. You hit the road running. But yeah, the amount of work that goes into that, you have to pack your 330 in there, or your big footholds. Again, with the footholds, you can't just use like a number 3 soft catch. You have to use like an MB 750, which is a wolf trap. They're, how big is that? The jaw spread is about 8 inches, kind of a thing. And that's just because the size of a beaver foot is so big. Like, you can use a number 3 soft catch. You can really use any foothold because it's a drowning set. But the MB 750 is like the go-to trap for that. Usually you want to get like a hind foot catch, and then when they step on that, they slide down the cable to where your anchor is, and then they can't swim back up and it drowns them. It's a very, very effective way to trap them. But when you're doing that, you have a great big foothold trap, you have a bunch of cable, you have stakes, you have your anchor. Typically, it's like a bag of sand or big rock, cinder block, whatever that you toss actually out into the water. So when you're doing footholds, I mean, you have to do it either with like your side-by-side or a pickup and you're on the side of the road. You're not going to want to pack that stuff out because your anchor has to be heavy enough where a beaver isn't going to be able to swim back up with it, because then it's not going to be a drowning set. It's going to be a pissed off beaver in a foothold set running around with a half a bag of sand dragging behind him, kind of a thing. So for that, it's a lot of extra work goes into the footholds, but they do work really well. The Conibears, they're more for the remote sets, but then again, the 330 Conibear, those things are big. Like, they are big traps. They're, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of spitball numbers, but probably about 20 inches wide, 18 inches tall, kind of a thing. Maybe 20 by 20-ish, somewhere around there. And, if you have, even half a dozen, like 6 in a bag, they're so big and clumsy, like, you won't really be able to carry more than 6. If you do, good on you, so for that, like, you're making multiple trips into remote sites. And then also, if you do catch a beaver in one of those remote sites, beaver are these short, fat little things, and they are surprisingly heavy. If you catch one that's 15 pounds, that's a juvenile. Those ones are pretty easy to pack out. A full-grown adult, around here, they're 20 to 30 pounds, kind of a thing. They are known to get to 50, sometimes 60 pounds. That's 60, that's a once in a blue moon kind of thing, but it does happen. One thing that a lot of people do, if they're trapping in kind of remote areas, they'll skin them out on the bank, leave all the meat and all that stuff behind, and they'll just roll up the hide and bring that out with them. Uh, but then when you're doing that, if you're a speed skinner, you can get it done within 5 to 10 minutes. If you're not, you're gonna be there for like 15 to 30 minutes, just kind of rough skinning a beaver out. And yeah, when you're trying to make a living with this, or just even a hobby, that is a ton of time to be spending uh, out on the river banks or creek bank or pond, wherever it is that you're at. So it's extremely time consuming, but yeah, overall, in general, it's pretty hard to do anything with beavers these days. And then just kind of the fur market in general. Uh, Even the marten, they went from $110, $120 per pelt down to about $20 to $40. I think they've rebounded a little bit here now. But then like you almost just feel guilty for trapping them for $20. Uh, it's because when you're trapping, you don't eat any of the meat. I mean, beaver you can, lynx you can, squirrel, but other than that, you're just trapping them for their hides. And man, if their hides aren't selling or they're selling for pennies, I I don't know. I have a pretty guilty conscience once you start doing that. Other than like coyotes and wolves, bears, things that actually need to be thinned out. Sure, give her. But yeah, marten, lynx, weasels, and stuff. If you're not trapping them for a purpose, there's no reason to be trapping them. With us too, it's kind of like trapping is slowly dying off. My dad's in his 50s now, and he's quote unquote the young guy in the industry, which is just crazy to think about. That if you're, yeah, if you're in your 50s, you're young. There's not much. There's not very many kids that are into trapping these days. Even me when I was growing up, you know, I'm pretty sure I was the only one in the whole school that knew anything about trapping. And this is in a northern community too. We're not exactly all outdoorsmen and stuff, but there's a good population of them up here. And yeah, there just seems to be very little to no interest in it. Uh, Even just like the cost of starting out, if you want to buy a trap line, prepare to spend about $60,000 on a trap line. If there's no cabin, now with the increase in lumber prices and stuff, a cabin's gonna cost you like, I don't know, just kind of spitballing numbers, but like $20,000 isn't exactly a stretch. By the time you buy all your lumber, your wood stove, your chimney, your pipe, all your tin, paint, bed, cabinets, everything for it, it's extremely expensive. And then also when you're trapping, you're not downtown Fort St. John where if something breaks down, it's like, whatever. I'll just call a tow truck. You're way out in the middle of nowhere, so you're gonna want good equipment. To get good equipment, again, it comes with a bunch of money. You don't want to buy an old 1990s Honda quad that has a rough idle kind of thing. One of those Facebook ad marketplace where it needs work or it's lady driven kind of a thing. You're gonna want something that's extremely reliable, and for the most part that means pretty well almost brand new kind of a thing. And if you want a brand new sled, that's gonna run you about $12,000 with everything said and done. Your sleigh, that's gonna be another few $100s. You need good traps that are legal. And like if you're gonna be running a trap line, you can't buy, 6 traps and run a trap line. I mean, you can, but to actually run it, oh man, We would run like a couple hundred. Like we have totes that are just stacked on top of each other, and we have just traps everywhere. But that's what you need in order to actually run a successful trap line. With us on our north line, that was a 80-mile loop that we did on our snowmobiles. So 80 miles, that is a ton of ground to cover. You're not going to do that with 6 or 7 traps. You need a lot. And then with that, you need trap boxes. There are other ways you can go about setting your traps if you're using conibears. You can use like the running pole set and stuff. But 90 some odd percent of the time, you're going to be running trap boxes. Those made out of plywood or plastic or milk jugs, or not milk jugs, but milk crates I've seen. But again, it's stuff that's going to be costing you money. And now that a sheet of plywood is, whatever, $50, you can get, I think, 3 or 4 boxes out of that. That's a pile of money for, even if you do like 2 dozen traps. It's just phenomenal how much money you gotta spend. And then also, you have to maintain all your stuff, and that can cost you quite a bit. It's just part of owning any type of machinery. So you can kind of work that into it, or you just kind of shrug it off, and it is what it is. There, a big issue that we started having here recently is kind of vandalism. We had issues out at mile 80. We had a cabin out there. Somebody came in and actually burnt that one down. When we talked to police about that, we were basically told, piss off. They started up a case number for us, and that was as far as their investigation went. And we only had that one for like a couple years, and somebody burnt it down. Don't know why. Everything was up and legal. It wasn't forestry or anything like that. Just, I don't know. Somebody felt like lighting a fire that day, I guess. So we had a cabin burned down. We had a cabin way at the end of the 73 road. There was an operator out in that area that kept stealing from us. That guy was really stupid. There was him and his cross shift kind of a deal. So if something ever got stolen out there, nobody goes out there, especially in the winter. So it was basically one of 2 people that were stealing from us. So that was a pretty easy one to figure out and to stop that. And then at our other line there that we had, these other 2, we've sold them and moved on. And then we had our main line, and people started coming in there, started wrecking stuff around the cabin, started breaking in, started stealing wood from us, solar fire pit, chairs, traps. It got just stupid to the point where, like, you can't afford to continue trapping because the fur itself wouldn't pay even for the fuel for your sled, let alone for all your expenses, the fuel for your pickup and all that stuff. But then people kept coming in and stealing from us, wrecking stuff, burning down a cabin, so we decided to get out of it, just walk away, take it as a loss. It really sucks because growing up, trapping and spending the weekends out at the cabin and stuff, some of the best memories you'll ever make. So when it was time to sell, it was not an easy decision, but it was something that, basically, it was something that almost needed to be done for us. It helped out Dad a lot. He paid off his boat, I'm pretty sure, with that. So, I mean, one door closed, another one opened. It was great while it lasted, but it was time to move on. And the guy we sold it to, he was, it was a dream come true for him. He was finally able to start his own, I wouldn't say a trapping career, but he was finally able to have his dream come true of owning a trap line, owning a cabin, and it feels pretty good to be able to say that you didn't really hand it to him, but being able to kind of pass on the tradition or pass on the torch kind of a thing. It's pretty cool that you see that they're out there, they're trapping it now, they're enjoying it, they're making their own memories like we did when I was growing up, kind of a thing. So yeah, it's nice to see that. But with that too, it kind of comes with what I was raised for. The future that I had planned. It almost seems to be like I was raised for a future that almost no longer exists. Uh, like hunting, fishing, trapping. When I was a kid, that's what I lived for. That's what I dreamed about doing for a career. Somehow, I was thinking about maybe being a guide in the fall for hunting, and then maybe a fishing guide, and then in the winter maybe spend my winters out on the trap line and just kind of trapping over the winter. But now with everything kind of declining, with piss poor management, vandalism, uh, anti-hunting, anti-trapping, even some people with like anti-fishing, which I don't understand at all. The whole, uh, it's like catch and release. All of a sudden, that's a bad thing that you're catching a fish and releasing them. Yeah, whatever. But it's kind of an unfortunate uh, area that we're in here now. Uh, you know, uh, Growing up, always had in my mindset, this is what I'm going to be doing. Uh, I had no idea, it would come to kind of like this, doing a podcast or YouTube kind of thing. This has just happened to come along, kind of a deal. I didn't really plan for this, but the future that I had planned out for myself. Uh, my dad, he always told us, like, when we were growing up, like, you need to have some sort of a plan, a purpose. He was always driving us to think about our future, set up RSPs and stuff like that. And so when I was young, I had this plan kind of put in place already. Like I was gonna graduate, go straight into like a guide job. Once that was done, maybe spend the winter at the trap line. In the spring, look for another job, either guiding spring bears for a few months and then getting into a fishing guiding outfit until fall, and then go back and guide big game animals, kind of a thing. But then now, as you grow up, you're kind of seeing the direction everything's going in. Uh, you know, that type of lifestyle, it's not exactly out of your hands or out of reach, kind of a thing. But it's hard to imagine being able to do that now, especially with there's everything's just kind of slowly slipping away, kind of thing. Uh, Around here, our moose and deer population is down. Predator population is skyrocketing. You have a lot of anti-hunting now. You have a lot of hunting pressure. The wildlife management is just non-existent. I've said that a lot in the past. Uh, the trapping industry is it's not quite dead, but it's on the verge. Even the fishing is down. We got whether it's from climate change and warmer waters and stuff, that does affect a lot of stuff. But there's also overfishing. There's some groups of people that don't listen to any regulation whatsoever. Uh, Especially around here, there's a couple of different groups where, they'll go and they'll catch fish by the bucket loads. And when they get caught, they just, whatever. Pay the fine, do whatever. Or they send their kids in and the kids do all the fishing. And, they just load up into the truck or the van or whatever, drive back home, and they don't really care. So you got overfishing, very little to no management, and warmer waters making the fish population decline by quite a bit. And then that's just like on the rivers and stuff around here and the lakes. It seems like kind of the funding and stuff isn't quite there anymore either. It's a lot of negative stuff that's going on right now, and I really don't know how they're exactly gonna fix it, other than they could start by getting their head out of their ass, kind of a thing, and maybe talking to more outdoorsmen. But I'm just repeating myself over and over. They need to talk to the outdoorsmen, the woodsmen that actually care about the outdoors, they care about the wildlife, not just the people that want to go out there and see that you can catch 5 trout. Knock that down to 2. You can. People just don't self-regulate, and again, broken record. And I really want to quit talking about it because it's really not going anywhere. And unfortunately, that's just kind of what happens. You can talk all you want, but until there's action, nothing's gonna happen. And yeah, I don't know. One good thing is that there is more and more newcomers. But with that, there's also a lot more mistakes. I don't know if their emotions just get the best of them, but it seems like there's a little more poaching these days than what there used to be, or it might be just from people getting desperate, or whatever. Who knows what the case is? Sometimes mistakes do happen. Other times it's just pure ignorance. The poaching issues too. It seems like a lot of it is just kind of pure ignorance. Whether somebody's trespassing on private property, they shoot a deer or an elk, moose, whatever. Farmer Joe comes out and says, "Hey, what the hell are you doing out here?" And they just pack up, run, hightail it out of there. They leave the animal dead in the guy's field. Or people don't quite realize that, moose is closed in an area for 2 weeks, or they don't quite understand how to count the points. So when they shoot something, they go up to it, buddy says, "Hey, you know what, that's not legal," and they panic and they freak out, whatever, and they run away. Mistakes do happen, but with all these newcomers, you really got to educate yourself, read the regulations. If you don't know, make sure you ask for help. One problem that I've been seeing a lot though is with a lot of like these kind of Facebook groups and stuff, people won't look at the regulations whatsoever. They just go on and say, "Hey, how many deer can I shoot in Region 7B in the Northeast region?" And somebody from wherever, just trying to get a laugh, will say, "Oh, don't worry, you can shoot 7." So when buddy goes out and shoots 3 or 4, thinking, "Oh yeah, no, somebody on the internet there said I can do this, so it must be legal." And turns out, oh crap, you can only shoot 1. So make sure you're not just getting your info from somebody online. Actually do your part and look it up. Give your head a shake, read regulations, get familiar with regulations. If you do screw up, just own up to it. Everybody messes up. We're humans, right? Uh, really, if you never make a mistake, you're not trying. To be honest with you, you know it's one of those unfortunate things where if you do something enough, uh, a mistake is gonna get made. Whether you're hunting or working as a chef, eventually you're gonna cut your finger, right? Uh, but just kind of, you know, use your head, read your regulations, get familiar with the area that you're hunting in, get a mentor, a hunting mentor or a fishing mentor. It can. They might not tell you everything that they know, but they'll let you. They'll let you in on a few secrets, anyways. Uh, but then also when you're first starting out, uh, don't get overwhelmed with all the choices of equipment and stuff that you can get. Uh, Man, I don't know how many times I've seen somebody out. They're wearing a full KUIU setup. They have a Seiko rifle, Swarovski scope, Swarovski binoculars, and it's like, wow, that guy, he has like $10,000 or more that he's packing right now. And you ask him how long he's been hunting for, and this is his first year hunting. And Buddy just said, yeah, this is the gear that you need. You don't need to do that. Uh, you know, I am a hunting fanatic. I still wear camo that I buy at Canadian Tire or Walmart or that's on the clearance section at Backcountry. the My main rifle that I use right now is a Browning AB3. It's their cheap version. It's not a Browning Expo. I didn't buy a $1,500 rifle. I bought a $600 rifle. My scopes, Loopold Freedom. They're $300. It used to be Loopold Rifleman. Now they kind of changed up the name, whatever. Bushnell make good binoculars. They make good scopes now too. When I was a kid, Bushnell wasn't that great, but now they're up there with the almost with the top name brands kind of thing. You can't go wrong with like a Vortex, Loopold, Bushnell. You don't need a $3,000 scope. Yeah, sure, the glass is gonna be a little bit more clear. You might get a little bit more light in when it comes to like just before dark kind of a thing. But really, if you have a Bushnell Elite or a Loopold Freedom, Vortex Crossfire, whatever, if you have that on top of like a Savage Axis or a Browning AB3 or a Ruger American, you are going to be perfectly fine with what you're hunting. You're not making 1,000-yard shots. You don't need, you know, a fancy custom rifle. You don't need Swarovski glass. Just keep things simple and enjoyable. Same thing with like your camouflage. Really, I think camo is one of those things where it does work, but 80% of it is marketing. Uh, I can buy a whatever. I can go down to the thrift store, find an old, beat up, worn out camouflage jacket for $3, put it on, and still shoot a deer with my bow at 30 yards. Same thing that you would do if you went out and spent $500 on one KUIU jacket. You know what I mean? So like you don't need to be stressing out about your gear. Just get what's available and get what is affordable. Uh, you know, just keep it simple. I don't know how else to really describe it other than that. Just uh, Savage Arms, Ruger, Weatherby, Browning, Tika, anything, any of those guns are perfectly fine with Weatherby. Just get a Weatherby Vanguard. They're a bit more money now. They're about $1,000, but you don't need a Weatherby Mark V. You don't need to spend $2,600 on a rifle to shoot a deer at 100 yards. Back in the day, you went to Sears, bought a Winchester 30-30, and you shot everything with that. And that was with open sights, lever action, held 5 rounds. It puts meat on the table. And really, all of your shots are going to be 100 to maybe 300 yards. Like, even that 300 yards, that's pushing it. Like, you really don't need to be taking 300-yard shots. So you don't need the latest and greatest in barrel technology. You don't need the latest and greatest rangefinder. Hell, you don't need a rangefinder at all. You need a half decent set of binoculars. The ones that I use are just Bushnell. I think they're 10 by 52. And they're, honestly, they're like 80 some odd dollars. They're not even in like the binocular section. They're hanging up on one of the side walls that are between aisles, kind of a thing. And they work phenomenal. But that's because I keep things simple and I keep things extremely affordable. Could I pull out my Visa and buy a set of Swarovski or the top of the line Leupolds? Absolutely. But I have no reason to. You know, the cheap $80 Bushnells that I use, they work perfectly fine. I can see the deer, elk, moose, bear, whatever. I can see them at 600 yards with it. I don't need anything more than that. Before I bought these ones, I used the Bushnell. Those ones were 10 by 52 as well, and they were like the Perma focus ones. I bought those at Walmart. I think they were like $60. You know, so like, you really don't need to spend an arm and a leg. When you're, I mean, if you want to buy something just to have a nice rifle or a nice scope, absolutely, sure, you can upgrade. But when you're first starting out and stuff, man, you don't need that stuff. Heck, look at what a lot of old timers use. They still have their old, whatever, Remington 700 that they bought in the 60s and 70s, and they still have the Leupold fixed 4-power scope on there. You know, the gun and scope or whatever, 40, 50 years old and still works just as good as a whatever Browning X-Bolt. So, you know, you don't need to go crazy and remortgage the house just to get into hunting and stuff. You know, you're just gonna go broke, and I mean, you'll look cool, I guess, but that's about it. But anyways, guys, I think I'm gonna cut her there. Thank you for tuning into this. If you're just listening to this, we have the video version up on YouTube. Go check us out over there, and while you're there, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, give us a comment or two, and then also if you're watching this on YouTube and you got things to do, you're busy people, right? You got to go uptown or whatever. You can find this on all major podcast platforms: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google, Amazon, whatever other ones there are. But anyways, yeah, give that a check. Check it out over there. Maybe leave us a rating or two. I don't know if that really helps us or not, but I mean, it can't do us any harm, I guess. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Again, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.